Whew. Melly and I just got back from selling the last bit of Girl Scout cookies. We sold out. Yay, that means cookie season is over for this year. I'm a little bit excited. A little bit. So it was rainy and snowy and mostly sleety and gross the whole time we were out. And so y'all are gonna have to deal with some very serious cat head. Hey guys, it's Wendy Valencia. So today I wanted to chat and tell you like it's a state of the Valencia household update. So before I jump into it, I do want to ask you guys a couple of questions. So on my channel, I do mostly budgeting stuff. I do opinions about like budgeting software or how to use Every Dollar, soon to be YNAB, and eventually maybe some other budgeting softwares as well. Softwares, that's not a word. Software. Anyway, so I wanted to know what kind of other stuff would you like to see from me? What kind of stuff interests you? What would you like to see on a recurring basis about us? Because we can really incorporate anything into this. Would you like organization videos or like what I pack Mauricio for lunch or what Melina eats for lunch? No, you don't want to see that because, oh my goodness, I would get so many judgy comments because Melina eats like 4 things. So today I wanted to do a State of the Union, kind of like where we're at, how we're feeling about getting debt free, what our plans are going forward. Because as you know, with the government shutdown, we were changed mentally, but not really, but yeah. And so we do have some changes coming down our pike in a little while, and I wanted to let y'all know about those. First, we started budgeting about 10 years ago when we first went to Financial Peace University. We were living in Baton Rouge at the time and we were struggling. It was really rough. Mauricio was going to LSU to learn to speak English. He didn't speak any English. He had never lived in the United States before, and so I was working full time. And so it was a really rough time financially. We really had, I had been single for the first, 35 years of my life almost, and I didn't have to budget, honestly, and I I didn't really ever pay attention to money. I just paid my bills and went on with my life. And I was okay financially. I wasn't winning, I wasn't failing. I was just kind of like haphazardly going along. And so trying to put Mauricio through school and then trying to pay for a house, which I had also never done, it became very, very complicated very, very quickly. And we were struggling, like seriously struggling. And so I found Dave Ramsey through a friend of mine. So I read his book in like, I'm not kidding, like a day. And I signed up for Financial Peace almost immediately, and Mauricio and I went and we enjoyed it and we learned a lot. And so I started budgeting thinking that that would fix our problem. But I wasn't really budgeting. I never really tracked my expenses. I planned to budget, but I didn't reconcile the budget. And it was a problem for me. I mean, a massive problem, because had I reconciled, I would have realized fairly quickly that our outgo significantly exceeded our income. So what little money that I had saved, we plowed through, and we had some major house problems at that time. It was just a whole big disaster. So, fast forward to us moving back to the United States. So, from Baton Rouge, we went down to Mexico. From Mexico, we came back to the United States. We still were budgeting. Let's call it budgeting light, because it really wasn't true budgeting. Yeah, if you don't reconcile, it's not budgeting. So we moved in with my parents, and we were, when we were living in Mexico, we were fine financially. We didn't, again, same concept. We were budgeting, but we weren't really making any headway. And in Mexico, we should have made headway because Mauricio had a good job in Mexico. But we were just enjoying life and not really thinking about things. And so we come back here and we realized we were in a tight financial position and we didn't like it. We wanted to buy a house. We didn't know where we were going to end up. There were a whole bunch of things that were factoring in, and we realized we needed to do something. I decided to start listening intently to Dave Ramsey again. I listened to him the whole probably 10 years. When I had free time or at the gym or whatever, I would put his show on and listen to him or whatever. So I started listening to Dave Ramsey pretty intently, and I was like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna deal with this. We've overcommitted ourselves financially. We need to figure out how to pay off this debt so we can get back on track. So this all happened in probably January of 2016. So I started talking about Dave a lot, but not too much because I knew Mauricio was sensitive about Dave Ramsey. But I started talking about how I was watching his show on YouTube. That was right about that time he had started doing the YouTube live stream beta. And it was before he would upload individual videos. He mostly just live streamed his radio show. And that was super fun to watch. And so I really enjoyed it and really got into this was back when Ken Coleman was the host and everything. And we got a group of people together called the YouTube Crazies on Facebook. And it was all the people that watched the show at that time in the beta. And we would talk after hours and ask each other questions, and I got really enthusiastic about doing the program. Around February 2016, we saw there was going to be a live event, smart money event in Washington DC, and I told Mauricio I would love to go. I sent him like a screenshot of them coming to DC, and I was like, wouldn't this be fun? Too bad we don't have any money. Well, Mauricio gave me tickets as my birthday present. And so, right around mid April, we went to the show, and I was so excited. And Mauricio had always enjoyed Dave, but he wasn't obsessed with being debt free because he grew up in a third world country, like third world poor. So, he had a totally different level of financial distress. My level of financial distress it was intense, but to him it wasn't that big of a deal because we could still put food on the table. And so I didn't think it would be anything big and exciting, but he got us the like VIP tickets where we got to meet Dave, and we're like one of 150 people that had dinner, and he answered questions and everything, and it was super fun. And I got to meet Ken Coleman and meet Dave and meet Chris Brown, and it just was such an amazing night. And then the like 2 days before, we found out that we had won tickets to the front row. And so we were Xander Insurance selected to sit right in the front row. And so we were like right in Dave's face. It was awesome. I mean, I could have touched his shoes. It was so cool. Mauricio got like super, super, super enthusiastic about doing the plan. I mean, like crazy enthusiastic. And I was like, okay, let's bank on this. And so we decided we were going to pay off our debt. Little did I know it wasn't going to be as easy as they tell you. It's not, take your extra $10. It's hard to dig yourself out of debt. It really is, especially when you have as much debt as we did. And sure, we have a lot of money. We have big incomes. I get that. But our debt to income ratio was over 100%. And so, I mean, well over 100%. And so it was just it was going to be a long road to hoe. Is that the saying? I don't know. Anyway, so we decided to go ahead and go for it, and we started. And that first year was awful because Mauricio didn't have a job, so he was Ubering and Amazon flexing as much as he could to bring in the money to pay the bills. And basically, what would happen each month is I would say, we need X amount of dollars from you to be able to pay the bills next month. You can't come home from Ubering or Amazon flexing until you have earned X number of dollars. And sometimes that was like 80, 90 hours of work. He was working so hard. And I am just so incredibly lucky to have such an amazing husband who's willing to go so hard to support his family. So now it's what, almost 3 years later. It's March, so it's 35 months later, and we paid off over $200,000 worth of debt, and we still have about, I'd say about 115-ish to go. Absolutely everything remained the same. We would be debt free in December of 2020 if we continued on at this pace. But unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to continue at this pace. My parents, as I've mentioned, will be going into a retirement community, and it is 100% dependent on when they decide to go. Because if they go this summer, then we will either be renting their house or buying their house. We are leaning towards buying their house, because if we rented their house, we'd still have to maintain it. So we don't know when that's going to happen. So at this point, while we have deviated from the Dave Ramsey plan significantly, we consider ourselves motivated by Dave, but not necessarily classic Dave followers. We feel that his plan is phenomenal, but that it wasn't perfect for our particular situation. So we adapted it. And there are many Dave followers out there who truly believe that is the wrong thing to do. But I'm here to tell you it can be done in any form that you want. And I realized the last video you watched was about us altering our plan and that being okay. And that's not what I'm here to talk about today. So what's going to happen from this point forward is we have officially paid off the visa. We did that on the 1st of March. Like the minute I could pay it off, I paid it off. I was so excited to pay it off, and Mauricio was so excited. We're going to next tackle our car, and we're going to pay the car. Hopefully, it's questionable. We're right on the edge of whether we can pay it in May or June. It'll probably be June. It's pretty tight, and if anything comes up, we're really going to have trouble paying it. So we're going to go ahead and say June, and then we're going to save. And basically what Mauricio and I decided is that we are going to stockpile money for as long as we can, because we are going to need closing costs, a small down payment, and then we also need to have a maintenance fund should anything go wrong in this house. And while again, not classic Dave Ramsey plan, I am not owning a house without an emergency fund that's sizable for home maintenance, because my house is not falling apart while I'm getting out of debt. I'm just not going to allow that to happen. A home is an investment, and I'm going to keep it that way. So we will be stockpiling money at that point. For how long, I don't know, but as quickly as we can. And then if my parents are still here in December, we're going to evaluate, because in December is when we would pay off our USAA loan. And we will obviously have the money to do that fairly quickly. And in come December, we're going to look at the amount of money we have and where my parents are in the retirement home process, if they haven't already gone by that point. If it looks like it's going to be a while, we're going to go ahead and pay off the USAA loan with that stockpile of cash. If, however, it looks like they are going to be moving imminently, we're just going to sit on that cash in case we need it. And we will continue to do that. So while we won't be technically paying off debt at that point, not much is really changing. It's kind of like being in emergency mode, like storm mode, without a storm. Does that make sense? So there is the potential that we'll pay off the USAA loan in one big lump sum. But because we have so many unknowns right now, we feel like this is the smartest way for us to do this. So we're just going to pay the minimum payments, and we may actually even do that with the car as well. I have to really sit down and run the numbers to really understand. And then the other thing you guys have to keep in mind is that we are prioritizing not taking out debt on Mauricio to go to school over getting out of debt quickly. So because, as I've said, he is going back to school, we're going to have cash for that. So at some point, he's going to leave his job and go to school full time. So we're going to need to also have cash set aside for that. So at this point, now that we've paid off the visa and potentially the car, Possibly we're going to negotiate that. Again, depending on the numbers, we will be truly departing from the Dave Ramsey plan. And like I said, I love Dave Ramsey. And I understand it's going to probably take several years for us to become debt free. And I'm okay with that because we are truly committed to never taking out debt. So that means rather than paying off our debt faster, we need to predict what we're going to need more money for coming down the pike. So I feel like we're being just uber fiscally responsible while we're doing this in this way, even though maybe we won't be paying off the debt, or maybe we will. I just can't tell you what's going to happen 6 months, a year from now. I really just don't know. So I'll see you in the next one. See ya. We're out.